Hello and welcome to Shannon Gardens. Thank you guys so much for joining me. So in this week's video, I wanted to highlight a vine that is currently blooming in my garden and is always such a welcome sight, particularly first thing in the morning, and that is the annual Morning Glory. Now, I've planted annual Morning Glory in my garden for years, both in containers and in the ground, and I want to discuss some of the experiences and information that I've learned along the way in planting those, as well as some additional information I've learned upon researching a bit more about them. So I'll take you guys around, and while I show you the vines I currently have blooming, I'll discuss some of the information that I've learned along the way. All right, you guys, so with that, let's get to it. The annual Morning Glory is a beautiful flowering vine that is native to Mexico and Central America. The lovely trumpet-shaped flowers open in the morning until about midday and come in a variety of colors including purple, light and dark pink, bluish purple, and white. The flowers attract bees, butterflies, hummingbirds, and are noted to also attract songbirds, although I haven't personally seen songbirds at my Morning Glories. So if you guys have on yours, please let me know in the comments. Morning glories are noted to prefer and will bloom best in full sun or at least 6 to 8 hours of sun per day. I do have some that get sun most of the day, but also get a bit of late afternoon shade, and they are profuse bloomers as well. They bloom from early or midsummer to approximately the first frost of fall, and sometimes even beyond that. They prefer well-draining, decently fertile soil, but not overly fertile soil that's very rich in organic matter. I plant both in containers and in the ground, and have found that for planting in the ground in my Georgia red clay, morning glories seem to do best when I amend the soil a bit to help with that drainage. Annual morning glories are very low maintenance plants that don't really prefer a lot of fertilization, and it may actually only encourage foliage rather than flowers if you fertilize too much. They also prefer moderate moisture, with suggested watering being approximately an inch per week and then mulching to help retain moisture. But I tend to just keep an eye on mine to see how they're looking and adjust my watering accordingly if they seem dry or if the leaves look a bit wilted. Now, I started my morning glories from seed and followed the instructions on the package, like the one I'm showing here that I planted this year. I generally begin by soaking the seed first and then covering the seeds with approximately a quarter inch of soil or as directed in the package, and then watering daily to keep them relatively moist but not saturated. The seedlings appear very quickly for me, anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks. When you are planting, make sure to give them some room to grow and definitely a place to climb so they don't choke out your surrounding plants. These vines will grab onto anything around them, like I'm showing you guys here. So just make sure you're providing a proper structure for them to grow on and enough space around them. If they do attach to a surrounding plant, I just gently remove it and wind it back on the trellis. I'll also sometimes use some garden tape, like what I'm showing here, to help assist in keeping that vine on the trellis. The annual morning glory is a fast-growing vine that quickly grows to approximately 10 feet depending on the variety. The leaves are heart-shaped and generally pretty large at about 2 inches or more across. The unique heart-shaped leaves are definitely the way I identify the vines before they even begin to flower. The only other plant that comes to mind that I'm aware of with a heart-shaped leaf is the eastern redbud tree, so the leaves really stand out as pretty unique to me. Annual morning glories are noted for hardiness zones 2 through 11, and while they're marked as annuals, they can act as perennials in zones 9, 10, and 11. In cooler zones, they are grown as annuals, although they can produce seeds and germinate again in spring, which is particularly noted for more mild climates like zones 7 and 8. Now, I'm in zones 7B, 8A, and they have definitely self-seeded and grow new vines in the spring and summer the following years. They can be considered invasive because of their reseeding and growth. However, I haven't personally had a problem with this. While they have reseeded, which I enjoy, it hasn't been excessive for me, and I can easily pull them if I see them growing in an area that I don't want them in. I've also found in researching that reseeding can be controlled by removing spent flowers, which can help in controlling excess seed production if that's a concern. Here I have a morning glory that's popped up in an area that I no longer want it in, and I'm just pulling it out and discarding it. This purple blooming vine is one that reseeded itself, and I actually left it to grow this year, and I'm so glad I did. It had the fence already behind it, so I didn't have to put up a trellis or anything, and it just began weaving itself through. It's one of the first things I see in the morning, and it's just so pretty when I look outside. Now, the funny thing is that I think I've only grown multicolored annual morning glories in this location in the past, so I was really surprised to see the single colored flower on this particular vine. The bees and butterflies have absolutely loved it, and I've seen a few hummingbirds as well, but unfortunately, I just wasn't quick enough to actually capture them on video. Now, I did want to mention that morning glories are noted to be toxic to people and pets, so as always, please make sure to do your due diligence when adding a plant to your space to make sure that it's an appropriate plant for your environment. Now, I did want to share with you guys how these look when they start to close up for the day. This is around noon or 1 o'clock for me, and I still think that they look really, really cute. As you can see here, that they've kind of closed up. I have a couple that are still open that are a little more in the shade, and then as the sun hits them, they will close up as well. But this one you can see is in the shade, so it's still open. But I just wanted to give you guys an idea. These generally stay open for me until around noon or maybe 1 o'clock. They might start closing up between 11 and noon. There's an annual dwarf morning glory that I've added the last couple of years to my containers specifically, and that is the Blew My Mind variety, which I'm showing here. This is first thing in the morning before the sun was hitting it, and you can see how the flowers are closed up with this variety, but then are completely open about an hour later when the sun has made its way to the container, and they'll remain open for the majority of the day. These are non-vining and more compact with a mounding growth habit reaching about 6 to 12 inches tall and 8 to 16 inches wide, and have small blooms. They bloom spring to frost and are drought tolerant. I've absolutely loved having this variety in my containers, and it just provides a bit of the uniqueness of the traditional vining variety and how they open part of the day and close part of the day, but will provide that in a much more compact plant. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I was so excited to share the morning glories with you guys and a bit of the information that I've learned along the way in planting these in my own garden. So thank you so much again. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that you can be notified each time I upload a new video. All right, you guys, until next time, happy gardening and goodbye.